evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming along. Venerable Robina Courtin. Doesn't really need too much of an introduction, although I do know that there are quite a few new people who may not have seen or heard of Robina before here tonight.
Well, happy to meet you all. Very happy to meet you. I'm on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, she's on. So without too much ado, I just wanted to let you know I don't believe that's happening. I'm always the first to say turn your phone off, and I've got mine on. I just wasn't, didn't think that would happen. Also included in this talk tonight, and at the start of it, you're very fortunate to be here tonight because Robina has just released a DVD that CD, that she has done with Yantra, and they're going to, at the start of the talk, they're going to discuss the CD, and that was the one that was playing when you all walked in. So I will hand over, and we'll also be doing signings afterwards as well. So you're very fortunate. But anyway, I'll hand over to Robina now, and she will introduce Yantra.
This is my friend Yantra de Wilde. Yantra. So I'll ask her to tell you how this little collaboration we've done started. Tell people.
Oh, should we listen to the music?
Oh, let's listen to the music first. Okay, we'll play one track, track 5.
We're going to let the music speak for itself.
Yeah, and then we can talk about it.
This took 4 years to produce this
Just a few
album.
days every year. That's all. Oh, yeah, a few days you tell? Tell how it started.
So I went to a retreat with Robina in the Blue Mountains about 4 years ago, and I heard her sing one of the prayers at the beginning of the session, and I thought, oh, she's got an amazing voice. I could tell it was a classically trained voice. And so the next morning at dawn, I awoke with very clear instructions, because I'm a music producer and composer, that I had to help get these wonderful chants out to the world. So I went up to Robina at lunchtime and I said, I've got a great idea. Have you ever recorded your stuff? I think we need to get it out there. And she said, no, I've never recorded it. And you didn't even know what I did. I said,
No,
I'm
I
a
said-
music producer. And you immediately said yes.
Yeah, I said, yeah. I'm a cheap date.
And so then it was really intense, because so we looked at her schedule and we went, okay, we can lock it in a recording session in the, to work out with her international touring schedule. And
So
then we
basically,
came
yeah.
together.
Yeah, so basically it was a few days in 4 years. It was only never more than 3 or 4 days together. I couldn't do because my schedule was a bit tight. So it's 2014, I think, 15, 16 and 17. Probably maybe only a series, no more than 20 days altogether that we worked together. And then she'd work, but the bulk of the work was, so the evolution of it was that, so you can hear the tunes, you can hear that they're repeats. Actually very boring music, really. Most of the Tibetan ones, they're 7 and 9 verse, 7 and 9 syllable lines, and they're very poetic in Tibetan, but they're just repeats. There's no concept of parts, and there's no music behind the music. It's all very ancient, like sometime in the 9th and 10th century, but they're just like da 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 da, repeated like 100 times. There's never any variation. So in a way, it's really boring. Do you understand? So the first thing that people typically do is put instruments to Buddhist music. All I know is I had this enormous aversion because they all sounded like kind of
New age bullshit.
new age bullshit. I couldn't cope. So then I know no bells
like,
and
I was
whistles
going
and
to think
no,
you were doing
we
that.
couldn't. So then we both somehow liked Gregorian chanting, which was only voice, and so it kind of grew from there. And then you can hear the tunes are kind of boring. And then we thought, well, let's do parts. So then that's where she came in.
Hildegard of Bingen, we listened to her.
We listened to her, yeah. And then what would happen is I'd sing it, then she'd tell me to sing it again, and then she'd tell me to sing it again, and she'd record. And I'd have my earphones on. And then we start to do parts. So then she'd go da-da, and she'd hear it, and then she'd sing the part, and I'd learn it, and then I'd sing over the previous one. So we had about 3 or 4 parts in there. And then repeats and repeats. So it ended up being a choir of Robina. And then one of our friends, Pearlie, said, you've got to have higher voices. Well, I can't do it. I used to be singing. I used to sing the high notes. Not possible. I couldn't do it. So then Yantra had to sneak in there and do the high notes. And then she snuck in and did others as well, So she kind of augmented the choir of Robina. So it's a choir of Robina with a bit of Yantra chucked in. And that's what it is. That's the essence of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
There it is. So we made it, and
And we're launching tonight.
tonight's the official launch, yeah. That's it. Well, I mean, yeah.
That's enough.
What
isn't
else? Do you want to ask any questions about it? No?
it? Good.
Yantra, come on, wait. You sure?
Oh, you sure?
Just in case. Is there anything else you want to say about it? What you got from it?
Well,
What you learned
just
from it?
Hildegard of Bingen was a really big influence. First, when Robina and I came together, she said, I want it to be a mixture of Bach and techno. Do you remember that?
That's right, I remember that.
And I was going through a really rough time in my life at this stage. I was going through a terrible divorce. And you were giving me mixture between Bach and techno with no instruments.
That's right, exactly.
And I remember at one point saying, I actually can't do this project. I've produced a lot of stuff. I worked with the BBC. Anyway, a lot of stuff. But I thought, I actually can't work out what Robina wants. And until we went, okay, let's listen to Hildegard. And so we came up with doing it totally a cappella, totally vocal. So it was getting the essence of those really weird and beautiful Tibetan melodies, which your teacher, what's his name again?
Lama Zopa.
Lama Zopa. So we'd listen to these gravelly...
I know, very unusual. You could hardly hear the voices. You can't hear the
and we'd
melodies.
have
I know.
to work out what melody was being
That's
sung
right,
because
exactly.
Robina really wanted to get it right. It had to be perfect. And every time we went into the studio, Robina would put on her saffron robes.
I did. I did my 3 prostrations
and you did
first.
all your bows.
Prostrations.
It was an amazing experience. I mean, there was times where I remember a time when I ran from the studio. I was so pissed off.
Yes, you did, didn't you?
And you chased me
I
into
did
the
chase
garden.
you.
Because it was intense. Robina had never been in the studio before like that.
No.
So she was inexperienced. So I had to tell her what to do, which is a turnaround. Robina, now. So it was a really incredible project, and it's been 4 years that we've now, tonight we're launching, so it's an amazing thing for us, isn't it?
It is. And I'm happy we did it.
I'm very
and
happy
I
we did
always
it.
think of my mother, because my mummy taught me singing when I was like 15 or 16. All the other girls, all the other family would go to see the South Melbourne Swans, who are playing at this moment. Smashing Essendon. Poor Essendon. But I could never bear the stress. I could never bear the strain and the stress, right? So I'd stay at home singing with my mother, learning singing. She had great hopes for me. And then so here I am, literally 60 years later, finally put out a CD. So I was offered to my mummy.
Agnes Bliss is
Agnes
very
Bliss is
happy.
my mummy's name. Agnes Bliss, yeah. Okay.
Someone did have a question.
Did you go?
Yantra. I've got a master's in music and a doctorate in creative arts. So
But nothing. She knew nothing about Tibetan music.
But
Zero.
Tibetan music,
Zero.
nothing.
Right.
Oh, I learnt so much. I learnt about microtones, rhythms. I learnt how to make harmonies where you don't think you can find harmonies. I learnt a really interesting process that I call the drone technique, where I would get Robina to sing all the different harmonies, and then I would stitch them all together. So I'd get a drone of Robina's, and then I'd record my voice and just add lots of reverb and delay and just sort of create this cathedral-like thing. So I think I really perfected. I'd done that technique before, but I perfected it on this album.
Good. Yes. The prayers. No, okay, good. Thank you. Well, I chose, there were two things in my mind when I chose them. One was I wanted to write a little puja, as we'd say it in Tibetan. They had to be logic to the different prayers. So anybody who's a Tibetan Buddhist would look at them and know exactly what I did. But I also chose them from the point of view of the tunes or the melodies, so that anybody who knew nothing, there'd be some variation as you listen to each track. I mean, the track's anything from 2 to 5 minutes. So even then they're kind of boring. I mean, you can hear them as sort of boring. I keep saying that, don't I?
They're not. They're not. They're really trance-like.
Yeah, there's something about there is that way.
They're very good to have on while you're in the background, while you're doing your dishes, domestics. It's beautiful.
So
It's
I chose them
atmospheric.
from that point of view, that they had to
It's
be...
not boring.
It's true. From that point of view, they had to be interesting. They had to be different melodies changing as we went. So they had to be interesting for those who've never heard a word and knew nothing, and also have some meaning for those who understood what was happening. Yeah, and that part came quite quickly. The first 7 tracks are that, and then the last 3 are 3 of the popular mantras. Om Mani Padme Hung, the mantra of compassion, the mantra of the medicine Buddha, and the mantra of Tara. And they're about 7 minutes each, those. They're just with parts and things as well.
There's some still left that we didn't get to put on because you weren't happy with it.
That's right, I wasn't happy with
So we fought over that a little bit, but you won.
That's okay.
But in the CD is the English translation, which is really helpful.
Yes, a little booklet.
You can sing along. I'm like an ad now, I feel like.
That's okay. Okay, people.
There's someone else
Thank you.
wants a
Yes, yes.
No, this is... No, I'm the ad now.
No, I would say... Okay, there's lots of Tibetan music recorded by Westerners, and it's usually done with instruments, flutes and things. And then the others are the Tibetans themselves, with that deep, unusual voice that they can produce. And then the way that there are there's lots and lots of those, the Gyuto monks, the Gyume monks chanting these amazing things with the deep voices. But the way we did it, more like the Gregorian choirs, this is, I think, not been done.
Tibet meets Hildegard of Bingen. Really, it's that real fusion of the Tibetan style and the Christian
Yes,
cathedral
that's true.
style.
That's true. That's true.
It's a real meeting of East and West.
It's true.
A lush meeting of East and West. That's what we've got on our website.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Yantra. Really. It's been an amazing experience. Thank you, darling. Okay.